Hi everybody, it's Kara, and here is my Gothic Charm that I put together for a swap over at Craft Happens. It opened today and I'm hosting it, and as promised I'm going to show you how I put together my charms. It's a lot like I put together my bracelets, my charm bracelets, so if you've watched those videos you're probably going to see the similarities. Let me get started. I'm not quite sure how long this is going to take, but I'm going to go over just a few basics and then show you how I do it. So normally I just start off with one of these little Tim Holtz swivel clasps. I also have usually some extra chain because I like to add things to it. I try to get the chain as close in color as possible to the swivel clasp that I'm using. Then I use either head pins and sometimes eye pins. The eye pins are the ones that have the little circle at the top, whereas the head pins have the flat end kind of like a nail. And then I use split rings or jump rings. I prefer split rings. Let me show you. The split ring, put it on this tool so you can see it, hopefully, because it's all silver. Let's see if my camera will focus it all. I'm not sure if you guys are going to get a good look at that, but there you go. Basically, you can see the split ring goes around more than one time as far as the circles go, whereas the jump ring is just one, round piece of wire. Hopefully you can see the difference. The split rings can be more difficult to use. I do have a tool that I use for the split rings. You can also use tweezers because basically think of them like the key ring, the keychain things that we all have. You have to pry it open to slide something on there. Hopefully you can kind of see how that works. With the jump ring, you can use a couple pliers or other things you may already have, jewelry pliers I mean. With the open end, hopefully, oops, sorry guys, I'm trying to work around the tripod. Open it at the top, and you just pull it towards you, slide on what you want to slide on, or put it on the chain, and then you put it right back into shape. If you do it that way, you'll be able to maintain the shape of the circle much easier than if you try and pull it apart. So those are all the basic tools I use. I'm sorry, the basic supplies. The tools that I actually use, as you've probably seen, are several different kinds of jewelry pliers. I do have the split ring tool, and then I have a cutter. But I did not start out with all of these tools. I started out with one tool that did three different things. It had the round tipped pliers like these, which is really important when you're doing charms or charm bracelets. And it had a cutter, and then it also had a section on it that had a flat end or edge inside, which is also important. And I'm gonna show you why those things sometimes help. Let me move the camera just a little bit. I'm going to show you how I start out. Like I said, if you guys have seen my charm bracelet ones, then you've seen this. I have one of these little jewelry trays. I'm not even sure what the official name is. Let me show it to you from above, a little higher. And what I do when I get started is first I fill up these four things with all of my basic supplies. I put all the beads I think I might use. I put anything else findings wise or special here, and I have a place for all my charms. This is a little bit emptier because I have finished the one and started on the second. Once I get all those laid out, then I start putting together my little bead dangles, which is what one of these would be considered. And a bead dangle could be, as many as you want because the head pins do come in different lengths. If I'm doing a charm for a swap, and let's say I have to make 3 charms, then I get 3 of each kind of the bead dangle ready to go. I only have 2 here because obviously one of my charms is completely done. And I just play around with the beads and put them in whatever order until I find ones that I like. And you can see them down here. These are some that I haven't actually taken the next step with because I wanted to show you how I do it. I have some bigger ones like this. Some smaller ones like that, some of the flowers. Okay, Down here I have some bigger ones. And so basically I get all 3 sets for each charm, if that's what I'm doing, ready at the same time. I also prep any of my charms. And by prepping the charms, I mean, for example, with this one, the setting piece and the cameo came separate. So I glued all those together with glossy accents and gave them time to, you know, for the glue to dry. And I also have my split ring up at the top ready to go. So I would do that 3 times, so that's all prepped and ready. This particular charm, I know I'm going to add with some extra chain, so the chain's already attached to part of it, so it's all ready to go. And again, I would do that 3 times for all of the things, except for sometimes I don't always do it on like the little metal pieces because I'm not quite sure how many I'm going to actually use. Okay, so once I've all prepped all of that, normally what I do is I do all 3 charms at the same time. This time I didn't because I wanted you to be able to see the full charm that I showed you at the beginning. And what I start with, which I also showed you, which is that swivel clasp. And I have one that's kind of in between. So let me show you what I first do. When I have all of these little charm danglers ready, the next thing I have to do is cut off the extra bit of the head pin, or eye pin if I'm using it, and start curving it. Now you can do that and prep them like I did here. See, I got it started. Or you can do this as you're putting them on the charm, which is what I normally do. I'm just doing it a little bit out of order because I'm showing you guys. So you would take whatever your cutting tool is, and you basically have to decide, move this back just a teeny bit, how much wire you think you're going to need left between the bead and the top in order to make a little curve, to curve the wire so that you can attach it either to a jump ring, a split ring, or to the chain. Okay, let me show you what I mean. On the finished one, I have, let's say for example, see if you can see this one, up at the top, curved the head pin and attached it just with the head pin. I didn't even add a jump ring or a split ring. Just all kind of depends on what you want to do and how much you want it to dangle. So that's what I'm getting ready to do here. I'm going to cut it about here. Okay. I'm going to cut that off, and I usually either aim it down or I put my hand over it because sometimes they fling around. There's that little piece I'm not going to use. You can see what I'm left with. Then I need to take my round nose pliers, and the first thing you need to do, take it down as close to the bead as possible, is you want to bend that piece that's left in as much of a 90-degree angle as you can. Can you see that? Then you're going to take, again, your round nose pliers, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but I have a faint line on here. I need to do it again, but I put a line on here with permanent marker because I want to make sure that when I do this curve, I do it in the same place on the round nose pliers every time so that my circles will be about the same size. So obviously if I do some down here, they'll be small. If I do some down up here, they'll be huge. So if I want them to be all about the same, put a little bit of permanent marker there, and then you'll know exactly where to start every time. When you're doing this, you're going to put that little tip of the wire, hopefully you can see that, in your pliers to where you really shouldn't even be able to feel it sticking out. It's just in there, okay? And then you're going to curve it back. And hopefully you can see that then I have the start of what I will use to attach to the chain or to the jump ring or split ring if I'm going to use one. So I'll do it one more time so you can see that again. Take one of these little guys. So the first thing I do Keep the beads down towards the end. Decide about how much of the head pin that you want left. Cut off the extra. Switch to your round nose pliers. Put them down as far as you can, or as close as you can to the bead, and then turn it in a right 90-degree angle. And normally the head pins are not strong enough to where you can't help it along a little bit with your finger. So you can hopefully see that's pretty nice and flat, 90 degrees. Then you take these round nose pliers again, line them up with that little line you made, if you made one, with the permanent marker. I can't feel it, but I've got a hold of it, and then curve it back. And there's the start of your circle. Okay? So what I normally do when I've got all this prepped and ready to go is first I lay one of these down. Sorry, a little off camera there. Lay the swivel clasp down and decide where some of the bigger things are going to go. And that's what I did on this second version. I put on, oh, sorry, I hit the camera. I put on a lot of the bigger items so that I could kind of make sure that I like the way they're hanging and that they're balanced out. I'm sorry, they're all kind of tangled. They've been laying in a pile. And I usually start with the bigger things because obviously they're going to be the more noticed things on your charm. And then I typically go back and fill in all the other little areas with the smaller pieces. So there's all of those. So you can see what I first did is I attached, and this is actually right here, that's the end of the swivel clasp. This is extra chain that I attached for the domino, which I'm going to do now. And because I'm very OCD, I like the charms to be the same, so I count how many links I did it. This probably also explains why I do it all at the same time, because it's much easier that way. But basically I placed this domino charm 4 links up. So I'm going to take my pliers, and because this time I'm using the chain, I'm going to treat this almost like I would treat a jump ring. And I'm going to basically open the link of the chain, take my swivel clasp, go 1, 2, 3, 4, which should be right about there. And of course, because I'm trying to do this on camera, the chain's not wanting to cooperate. Ooh, too many. And yes, I have gone back and fixed it if I've seen things were not the same, because that's just me. Then once whatever it is you want is on there, or you're putting on the chain, I just put the pieces back together. Let me do this off camera because I'm having a hard time with that tripod. There we go. And then you have, sorry, your first piece, camera a little bit, on the swivel clasp. And then I would just go through and do all of the big pieces first. Then once I got the big pieces done, I'm going to then start adding on all of these little ones that I've prepped. And again, normally when I'm doing them all at the same time, I do all of the dominoes, 1, 2, 3 charms, and then I do all of the wings, 1, 2, 3, etc. Let me just show you this last little one that I'm going to add, and hopefully that gives you enough information to go out and do some of your own charms. You can see on this finished one, this little particular bead is up at the very top, so that's what I'm going to do now. Putting it in the same place. I've already prepped it, I've cut it down, I've curved it. I'm going to put it right here, the top. I just put it on the curve spot. I'm going to go back and take those round nose pliers. I'm going to grab the end of that head pin that I've curved and continue curving it down I'm sorry if this isn't a very good angle for you guys to see. But basically, I'm going to curve it down and use these little pliers to get it as close to a circular or oval type of shape. And again, with the camera will focus, there you go, to where the bead stays attached. Basically, you want the end to curve in and meet the top. And sometimes this won't be completely straight, which is why those flat edge pliers are helpful, because you can just kind of take it in there and go tap, 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 and that helps straighten it out because it gets it all in the same line. Well, you can see that as the other one. So that's how I go about making my charms. I know this was a very long video. If you guys have any questions, because I covered quite a few little basic steps, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. I will be hosting this swap over at Craft Happens. You do have an option to make a Gothic themed charm like this one, or you have the option to make a traditional one, meaning traditional colors, like this little guy. So come on over, check us out if you haven't. All of the swap descriptions and guidelines and all that good stuff are up and posted today. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're having a great weekend wherever you're at. Bye!